Thunder Buddies podcast, your source for all things Thunder basketball, courtesy of the Oklahoman. My name is Justin Martinez, and today I'm joined once again by our columnist, Joe Mussatto. Joe, how you doing today, man?
I'm good, Justin. You've been grinding. You just got back from Fort Worth covering. How about a preseason road back to back? You gotta love that.
Yeah, in Charleston, South Carolina, and then in Fort Worth yesterday, in Texas. It was not too bad of a trip. I think I got back at around 3 a.m. So could have been worse. Running on a little bit of sleep, but mostly just excited to be talking basketball again. Joe, OKC is 2 games in the preseason play. They did lose that game yesterday to Dallas, so they're now 1-1. Next up is a home game against the Charlotte Hornets at 7 p.m. on Thursday. Before we do talk some basketball, because Joe, we got some fun stuff planned today. We're gonna be playing buy or sell. We do got to get into some injury updates from the last time that we spoke last week. So the first thing was Kenrich Williams, um, who will be reevaluated in 6 to 8 weeks after undergoing an arthroscopic procedure in his left knee. We had heard about the procedure last time we talked, didn't know the timeline, but now we do. And as you mentioned, I mean, he's a guy who fortunately will be able to still have his impact off the floor, just as a mentor, as a leader. But now he'll be joined on the sideline by Nikola Topic as well, who had a testicular procedure yesterday and will be out for or will be reevaluated in approximately 4 to 6 weeks, which gives a timeline of around November 3rd to the 17th. Joe, just a tough setback for a guy who, obviously missed all of last season due to injury, a partially torn ACL in his left knee, worked his way back, played in Summer League, even started in OKC's first preseason game, played 31 minutes, and is now sidelined once again.
Yeah, it's first off, you hope everything's okay and that he recovers on track. But it's just yeah, kind of a shame for his development. Everyone's looking forward to seeing him. I know he's not the headliner on this team, but we've seen all the rest of the guys. They're old news. We know they're good. We were ready to watch Nikola Topic and see what he had. So you mentioned that timeline. I mean, that's missing at least the first 7 games. You said November 3rd on the early end. Starting on November 4th, the Thunder goes on like a 4 game road trip. They come back November 11th. So you're looking at him missing maybe around like 10-ish games or so, more or less. So, in the grand scheme of things, it's a long season. That's hardly a dent, but you would just like to have him more than anything play in the rest of these preseason games, get acclimated rather than Degnault always uses this term like jump on a moving train, which he's kind of going to have to do once he comes back.
Yeah, for sure. And we talked about with the Kenrich Williams injury as well. Obviously, OKC is fortunate enough to where they have a lot of depth. I don't think it's something that will hurt them too much. Obviously, they went and won a championship, 68 regular season games last season without him, but he was someone who was going to compete for minutes, right away. As good as Casey Wallace is off the bench for him, he's still not quite the creator for others. And Nikola Tovic, I thought would have came in and immediately been able to help out with that. I mean, we saw his passing in Summer League, even in that preseason game. So that is unfortunate. But yeah, they're going to have guys like obviously Casey Wallace off the bench, AJ Mitchell as well. And then obviously you got the starters too. So with Shea and everyone else. So they will be fine from a depth perspective. But yeah, it is just unfortunate because like you said, we've seen everybody else. We've been waiting to see him make his NBA debut. So we're gonna have to wait a little bit longer for that. But Joe, today we got something fun here. We got buy or sell, and the way that's gonna work is I'm gonna give you some Thunder predictions or statements on the season, and then we will say if we are buying or selling on it actually happening. If that sounds good to you.
Let's do it.
All right. So let's go ahead and get started with one that we talked a little bit about in the last episode, and a lot of people have been talking about it. A potential breakout player for OKC, Chet Holmgren, will be an all-star this season. Joe, are you buying or selling on that?
Justin, I'm buying so hard that I'm selling the premise of the question. I I'm not only buying that Chet Holmgren's going to be an all-star. Uh, I'm working on some bold predictions. I think Chet Holmgren is going to be an all NBA player. And I'll go a step further than that. And this might be crazy, but it's why it's bold. I'm going to say he's a second team All NBA player. I think
Wow.
the Thunder's going to have three guys make All NBA, obviously with Shea and Dub being the other two. I just think if Chet is fully healthy, he is a two-way force. I mean, he's going to be in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation. If Wemby stays healthy, Wemby probably wins it. Chet finishes second, maybe. Um, but I think he's going to take a step on the offensive end. I think he was in those first 10 games last year, was on an all-star track already. Um, Now, he's even better. So I'm buying all of this. I'm buying all of this Chet Holmgren stock to start the season.
I love it. I'm buying it as well. You mentioned the health obviously is the big thing here. He played in 32 games last season, missed 39 straight due to a fractured hip. But yeah, when he was on the floor, I mean, you could see his impact on both ends. I could definitely see with a full healthy season him being in that 20 and 10 range, with about maybe let's say like 2 blocks and change, some steals as well. So contributing on both ends of the floor. Another thing that I think is worth noting is that the NBA is going to have a different format for the All-Star game this season as they're continuing to try to change things up. So you're going to have three 8-player teams. The assumption is that one will be a world team, and that takes away some bigs who would be competing for that, those All-Star spots with Chet as well. You've got Nikola Jokic, you've got Giannis Antetokounmpo. It's a big thing with health, but like Joel Embiid, you got Alperen Sengun, Giannis I said already, but yeah, that would take away some guys. And even with forwards, you got like Franz Wagner, Pascal Siakam, Tatum's going to be out. We figure for most, if not all of the season. So these are all spots that would be tough to get, but now they're going to be open there for Chet. So I definitely think the door is there for him, or the path is there for him to get that.
Yeah, a couple things. Hearing you talk about that, 2028's far away, but like when you talk about like American versus international, he could be like the five of the future, and probably should be for uh, the U.S. team. The Americans, that's typically their biggest weakness on international play, is just kind of strength inside. And while he doesn't have like the heft that you sometimes see from, these guys from Lithuania or Serbia or something like that, he certainly fills a position of need for the Americans. Also, you said something that piqued my interest, because this might go into another bold prediction. Not to spoil that, maybe that's another podcast. But you said 20 and 10. I'm with you. But if he averages 20 points a game, this Thunder team's gonna have three guys average 20 plus, which has been done very few times in NBA history. So that's something else to watch for.
Yeah, I don't have the exact stats pulled up, but was it around like 16 and 8? I think it was something around there last season for him.
Yeah, I
Um,
think that's right.
yeah, so even if he stays around there, honestly, even if he gets up to let's say 18 points and is still getting close to that 10 rebounds, the blocks are going to be there as well. So yeah, I think he is someone who's going to stuff the stat sheet. And it is also tough to get three All-Stars on the same team. We know Shea's a lock. Figured Dub will be as well, but if they're going to be the best team in the league, which I think a lot of people are assuming that they will be, then I really don't feel like it would be that crazy for them to have three on this team. But speaking of this team, Joe, the next one that we got here, Case and Wallace will make more starts than Isaiah Hardenstein. Now, that's been a topic of discussion, that obviously OKC rolled out the double big lineup a lot last season. Hardenstein started in 53 of his 57 regular season games. But then when it came around time for the NBA Finals, he actually came off the bench for three of those games. Kaysen started over him just due to the matchup. So, Joe, are you buying or selling that we'll see more Kaysen Wallace as a starter this season than Hardenstein?
I'm buying it. And I feel like you asking this question, we're on the same page here, because again, you're my bold predictions are being spoiled. This
I'm
was
sorry about that.
this was, oh no, Justin, I'm gonna have like 10 of them. We can talk about two of them today. This was another one. I think it's mainly because like I'm willing it to happen. Not that it didn't work for the Thunder last year. They were quite good, if you remember. But I do think the Thunder is at their best when uh Chet is the lone big in that starting lineup. I think offensively, especially, it accentuates the thing Chet is best at, and just helps the overall spacing. I also think, we talk a lot about, who's going to be, you know captaining those second units. It's nice to have a guy like Hartenstein out there who can help facilitate the offense in more of a reserve role. So I'm buying that Kaysen is going to make more starts. I think that's the Thunder's best starting lineup with a single big. Now matchup dependent, sure, but I think Mark Daignault kind of tipped his hand with how that Pacer series was going. Ultimately, he flipped back to Hartenstein, but it just showed an openness to going that route.
Yeah, I'm buying as well. Honestly, we did not coordinate this much, but I was going to say the same thing. I'm kind of trying to speak it into existence too, because I do feel like it is their best lineup, and the stats show that as well, which I have here. According to Cleaning the Glass, the Kaysen lineup was 5.8 points per 100 possessions better than the Hardenstein one during the last regular season. Obviously, smaller sample size, and then in the postseason, an even smaller sample size, but that Kaysen lineup was 23.1 points per 100 possessions better than the Hardenstein one. You talked about the floor spacing, having Chet at the five, being able to go five out. Kaysen gives them another kick out option, another ball handler, another threat in transition. He's also a great cutter, which helps with the spacing as well. Just giving a lot of room for Shea to operate. And obviously, we see what happens when that happens. So I do feel like that is their best lineup. Maybe won't see a ton of it at the start of the season with Topic out. That's one less ball handler they could have off the bench while Kaysen is starting. So maybe we'll see Kaysen running that second unit at least for the first 10 games or so. But yeah, I do feel like it is their best lineup. And I would think that, by the time the regular season ends, we're seeing a lot more Kaysen in that starting five than Hardenstein. Not to diminish his role. He's still going to be very impactful as a rebounder or passer at his size. But I do feel like that is just the most optimal lineup for them. So the next one, Joe, Shea will win back-to-back MVPs. Obviously, got his first one last season. There has not been a Canadian-born player to win back-to-back MVPs since Steve Nash, someone that Shea has said he looked up to growing up. So, will you think, or do you think that will happen again this season? Are you buying or selling?
I'm selling this one just because I think Shea could almost be just as good again this coming season as he was last season. But MVP is so much about like the psyche of voters and narratives. And I'm not using that in a bad sense. It's just like human nature. And I think Denver is going to be better this year, quite a bit better. I loved their offseason. Um, and Jokic, you could just count on him putting up stupid numbers as well. So if like Denver's better, if that gap between OKC and Denver is smaller than it was last season, because I think that was like the thing that, Jokic always has the advanced analytics, but for the first time, like Shea was equaling him in all of those stats. And then the Thunder was so much better than the Nuggets that I think that was the tiebreaker. If that gap narrows a little bit, which I think it will, I think also people just, you know, Jokic is the best player in the world. And it's almost like a nod of like, hey, we should reward this guy again. We let someone else win it last year. So I think Jokic is going to win MVP. I think Shea is going to finish second.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. I'm buying on that too, or selling, I should say, that he will win back to back. I mean, Jokic averaged a triple double last season, wasn't able to get it. I feel like he is due to get it back if he does get those stats again. Giannis is another guy who I feel like at a certain point we've just kind of become numb to like how
Yeah.
crazy of the stat lines he puts up. Like a 30-point double double is insane. And he's someone who is probably going to have an even bigger role this time with Damian Lillard out. There's not a lot of other options there in Milwaukee. It's a wide open Eastern Conference. If they were to somehow get into, let's say, like a top four seed and he's putting up crazy numbers, he'll be in that mix as well. So it's nothing against Shea. I don't think it's really going to be a matter of like, he's taking a step back in terms of his play on the floor. But just there's so many other great players. Jokic being at the front of that list, I do think that he will end up winning it instead of Shea. But next up,
I,
we
I,
got.
I like Giannis's case because it's widely assumed that New York and Cleveland are going to get the 1 and 2 seed in whatever order you want to put those teams in. If somehow Milwaukee surprises folks and like wins the East in the regular season or even gets the 2 seed, Giannis is going to have crazy numbers. And the East is so gettable that I think he could have a pretty good case. Um, and I've heard some people talk about I'm not as high on that happening just because I think they're clearly going to be behind the two teams up top. I actually like Luca's case a little bit better, but I'm with you. Giannis would probably be like if I'm looking for a quote unquote underdog behind the big two, I'd pick Giannis.
Yeah, yeah. I'm glad you also mentioned Ant. There has been, a lot of people trying to predict that as sort of a dark horse. I will say, I mean, the guy just continues to get better. Like last
Yeah.
season, the 3-point jump that he had was just incredible. So I'm not putting it past him that he can come out and all of a sudden be like an all NBA defender or something like that, you know?
Hmm.
Um, and then Minnesota will obviously still be one of the better teams as well. So, there will be a case for him or an opportunity, I should say, for him aside from from Giannis. I mean, he's gonna have one of the bigger like workloads, usage rates out of all these guys on the list too. Um, so that is something to consider as well. But yeah, I do think at the end of the day, it's gonna go to Jokic. He's gonna continue to put up points. The team should be better, so that gap against OKC, like you said, should be smaller, and I think that'll help his case a lot more. But next up, speaking of records and stuff in the regular season, the over under for OKC is at 62 and a half wins. Obviously, OKC won 68 last season. Joe, are you buying or selling that OKC will win at least 63 games? So the over this regular season.
I'm buying. I think they're going to be a 65 win team, Justin. That's my prediction. Crazy that that's 3 games worse than last season, but still over this over under. Yeah, I think I've said this a bunch, but I think the Thunder is going to be a better team by the time the playoffs roll around uh, next season. I don't think they're going to be as dominant of a regular season team because human nature, they've done it before. They know what it takes to win in the playoffs. Like being like an all-time defensive team and giving that amount of effort night in night out, I just think is going to be like really tough, and they don't really need to do that. That being said, they're so talented, they're so deep that you know I don't want to say they can like walk into 65 wins, but this is a team that is just we saw them deal with injuries in the regular season last year, and they still win 68 games. Shea's that good. You're going to have the Wiggins go off on some night and win a couple games when some starters are out. Dub can carry the load, so I'm buying the over, but a little under where they finished last season.
Yeah, I'm buying it as well as we continue to be on the same page here.
What do you have a win total?
Uh, it's I was gonna sound even worse because I was literally gonna say 65. So
Man,
I I'll
maybe we're just
say
spot on. I don't know.
yeah, I'll say a little bit below. I'll say 64. I think they'll be closer to 63 than they will be to 68 or 69 going better than
Yeah.
last season. Some people are throwing out the 70 win season. I just think obviously, I mean, you could see the logic in the sense that they won 68 despite injuries to guys like Chet to Dub, but I just think you kind of also have to let last year be its own thing. Like it was a crazy run. But even if they continue to be the best team in the league, that level of play is just hard to sustain. It just is. So I could see them being a little bit worse record wise last season, still just as dominant. There's also the concern with all the injuries that have been happening lately. But when you really take a step back and look at it, Kenrich, like we talked about, is a guy who mostly is going to make his impact off the floor with his leadership, mentorship. Topic is someone who didn't play last season, Sorber as well. So the actual like 9, 10 man rotation is still fully intact here heading into this season. So I really don't see any reason why they wouldn't continue to be the best team in the NBA, which I think will lead to a 60 win season, probably around 64 or 65, if I had to guess. But once the postseason rolls around, it's really tough to win back to back championships, Joe. So buying or selling on OKC winning a second straight title.
I guess I'm buying. I haven't like made formal predictions yet, but I just think that I think we're overrating the West a little bit. I mean, and like I know it's deep, but I really think Denver is the only team with the legitimate case to challenge OKC. We saw it last year. They've been even better. I think those two teams are head and shoulders above even the Houstons of the world. Um, and then, if you win the West, you're looking at, like we said, probably a New York or a Cleveland, and the Thunder is going to be heavily favored in whatever series that is. Obviously, this takes into account they're healthy when they get there. Um, but this is a team that was so far ahead of schedule last year. They had no business doing what they did. Um, with J Dub and still in his pre-prime years. Chet, same thing for him. We're expecting a huge jump. Shea, you know what you're going to get out of him. Cason Wallace should be better. Hartenstein knows what it's like here now. I just think this team is going to be awfully difficult to beat. So I guess I'm predicting the streak is going to be broken. Thunder becomes the first team to repeat since those 17-18 Warriors.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. We've been agreeing this whole time, and this is the one where I'm actually gonna sell on it now.
Okay, I like it. We
Yeah,
needed to disagree.
yeah, exactly. Now, could this come back to bite me? Yes. Could this take end up looking horrible? Yes. And it wouldn't be the first one that I've had. That happens when you do this thing, obviously. But you talked about it. It's just so hard to repeat in this era of basketball. In addition to everything having to go right on the floor with the way the guys are playing, you also just need some other things that kind of just fall your way
Yeah,
throughout a championship run. Not to discredit anything OKC did, but you had the Aaron Gordon injury in Game 7 of that second round. Obviously, the Tyrese Halliburton one as well in Game 7 of the finals. These are things that you can't control. Again, OKC can only play the team that is in front of them, so I don't blame them for it. But it is just to say that, some things have to go right for you, or things just really in general have to. And for that to happen back to back seasons, I do think is tough to ask. Even Sam Presti said in his preseason availability, the odds are stacked against OKC. So I am, I guess, taking the field. If I had to pick a team, though, I would say to Denver, like you mentioned, is the biggest threat. This is a team that, like we said, just took OKC to 7 games last season and really had a great summer. The depth was an issue for this team. They have addressed that. They have a backup center now for Jokic and Jonas Valanciunas. They brought back Bruce Brown, who was a key part of that championship team a few seasons ago. Tim Hardaway Jr. And then also that Cam Johnson trade with Michael Porter Jr. I think he's going to be a great fit for them. Someone who can knock down threes, play some good defense, just play within their system. I think he'll hit the ground running. So obviously you got Jokic as well, that 2-man game with Jamal Murray. So I feel like that would be my pick to win it all. But would it surprise me if OKC won again? Absolutely not. They're the favorites for a good reason. I do think they will win future championships here in OKC, but when it comes to next season, I just think it's so hard to do it twice in a row. As much as they do have championship experience, they don't have experience defending a title. So that is also going to be some uncharted territory. So I do think they won't win this upcoming season.
yeah. I mean, just ask Jokic in Denver how hard it is to defend a title. Obviously, they didn't even come close to doing it. To the point about Denver, I don't know if if they use their one wild card breaking out the zone in that series last year and just they executed it so well. But I was really impressed by David Adelman in that series, just doing less with more, doing more with less, more with less, especially defensively. Like that Denver defense gave the Thunder so much more trouble than the Timberwolves defense, and the Timberwolves defense is way better from a personnel standpoint. So I thought they were really well coached. Obviously, the Thunder is too. It's just man, Jokic. It doesn't even matter who's around him. He's so good that he could win a series. But I'd probably pick Thunder in 7 again. Um, and yeah, so we'll see. OKC Denver, we're both high on them.
Yeah. Assuming OKC is able to make it out of the West, what team do you think would be the biggest threat in the Eastern Conference?
Excuse me. I'd probably go New York. Um, I think they have, they've got a bunch of big wings they could throw at Shea. And if anyone's got a chance to like slow down Shea, it's like that bigger bodied wing, whether it's OG or Bridges. Um, maybe, maybe Mike Brown just infuses New York with better vibes this year. You've got Brunson there. New York doesn't have a lot of depth. Um, but maybe there's a move to make. I just think that starting five is legit. And as rotations get condensed in the playoffs anyway, I think New York is probably the biggest threat in the East, but I'm like even now trying to convince myself of that.
Well, we're back to agreeing again because I do think New York is the biggest threat. The depth. I mean, they did make some additions. Like Gershon Yabusele is
That's
going to be
right.
here now. You got Jordan Clarkson, Mitchell Robinson is in the mix after missing a lot of last season. They really needed that help with rim protection. As great as Karl Anthony Towns is, he's not a rim protector. So now they have a solid, shot blocking five option as well. So I do think New York would be the biggest threat, but I do think there's also, clear tiers to it, and I think Denver would be like in its own tier in terms of a threat, whereas then you have the rest of the Eastern Conference teams. So,
Who's your third favorite team in the East? Assuming Cleveland's second.
yeah, Cleveland would be second, pretty close to New York. I think they're pretty interchangeable. The third one, I don't see enough help for Giannis to say Milwaukee. So I'm gonna say Orlando. It's a little bit of projecting. I do think the offense is still obviously the big question mark. Just their shooting, their floor spacing. Bringing in Desmond Bane will help. Same for bringing in Tyus Jones as well to get 3-point shooters. They're going to be elite defensively. I think the East will be wide open. So I could definitely see them maybe upsetting like a New York or a Cleveland in the second round, and all of a sudden here they are making a conference finals appearance.
Yeah, I like that. I think they could make a jump. I'd probably go with Atlanta. Um, I think they would have a devilishly tough time in a potential series against OKC. But how fun would that be? Trae Young against the Thunder in the NBA Finals? It's not that crazy to even think about.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. Definitely would be. But Joe, that is all that I really had planned for this. I really do appreciate you getting on this here with me. Any parting thoughts, any words of wisdom for the people before we get out of here?
Um, don't don't make too many hard declarations out of what you see in the preseason. Um, there's a lot of basketball to be played, but enjoy it. This is fun. I feel like we're in the thick of football season, so it's always fun for me when I can talk some basketball because it's here. It's October. This is the first month of the NBA season, and I'm ready to get going, Justin.
Yeah, definitely. I'm actually ready to get a little bit of sleep after this trip. So, but after that, I'll be ready to get going. So
That's right.
first, I'm
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
take a
yeah.
little
Sleep
nap.
first.
Yeah, and then we'll be good. But that's gonna do it for us, guys. Thank you so much, and we'll see you all next time.